All right, this is free response question number 6 from the 2012 released AP exam. Question number 6, part A. So our question is this. We have a particle moving. For 0 less than or equal to t less than or equal to 12, a particle moves along the x-axis. The velocity of the particle at time t is given by v of t equals cosine of pi over 6 t. The particle is at position x equals -2 at time t equals 0. So things we should notice right away, this is about particle motion. They gave us the velocity, so we can think we will integrate to get the position, we'll differentiate to get the acceleration. If we ever have to integrate, they gave us an initial condition right here. So this initial condition will determine the c from the integration. So we're entertaining part A, which says for 0 less than or equal to t less than or equal to 12, when is the particle moving to the left? So this 0 less than or equal to t less than or equal to 12 is setting an interval for the problem, and anything that happens outside that interval we're not interested in. So we have a velocity function, which is cosine of pi over 6 t, and we have initial condition x equals -2 at time t equals 0, and we have an interval t between 0 and 12, which I like to write like this. T is an element of the interval 0 to 12, including the endpoints because it's a closed interval. So now our first question is, when is this particle moving to the left? So the first thing we're going to do is write that v of t is less than 0. So as long as we say v of t is less than 0, that's what it means the particle is moving to the left. If the velocity is negative. If the velocity is positive, we're moving to the right. Velocity is negative, we're moving to the left. So we're going to start by saying v of t is less than 0. We might in fact get a point just for writing v of t is less than 0. So now, but we're not going to get all the points for doing that. We now need to solve it. So our v of t is cosine pi over 6 t. So this is cosine pi over 6 t is less than 0, and we need to solve that inequality. So we really wish we had a calculator so we could graph this. Unfortunately, this is a calculator inactive question. So we actually have to solve this inequality. When is cosine pi over 6t less than 0? So we'll need to think about that. What I would do is think about what's inside the cosine here, and let's say that's an angle theta, right? Now let's look at our unit circle, which of course we have memorized completely. And we'll say, where on the unit circle is the cosine negative? Well, the cosine is the x-coordinate. So the x-coordinate is negative from here to here. If we had an interval that included some negative things, we might think about this down here being negative pi over 2. But our interval is all positive. So we're going to think of this as being pi over 2 and this being 3 pi over 2. Now, as long as our theta is between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, then the cosine of theta will be less than 0 because that x-coordinate is negative. So now that we know that the theta has to be between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, we could just write that. Pi over 2 is less than theta is less than 3 pi over 2. And the theta is just this pi over 6t. So we really are looking for where is pi over 2 less than pi over 6t less than 3 pi over 2. Now to solve this, we want to sort of clear out all the fractions. We want to get the t by itself in the middle here. So let's start by clearing out the fractions. I have a common denominator of 6, so let's multiply both sides of this inequality by 6. Of course, when we're multiplying an inequality, we're going to think about, am I multiplying by a negative? Because if I were multiplying by a negative, I would reverse these inequalities. But I'm not. I'm multiplying by a positive. So I'm just going to multiply through, we say, all three sides of this inequality. So 6 pi times pi over 2 is going to give me 3 pi. We're keeping that less than. The 6 will cancel with the 6, and I have pi t is less than. The 6 will reduce with the 2 to give me 3, and 3 times the 3 pi is 9 pi. Now I'm close to having my t by itself. Of course, what I have to do next is divide everything by pi. I'm going to write like that like this. We're going to divide it all by pi. So now I have 3 is less than t is less than 9. Now, this inequality, 3 is less than t is less than 9, when this is true, then the theta will be between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, so the cosine will be less than 0, so the velocity will be less than 0, so the particle will be moving left. So I can say the particle moves to the left, and I like to say on the interval, and so I'm going to write my interval 3 to 9. I've chosen to write an open interval here because if we write a closed interval, I would be saying that the particle is moving to the left at t equals 3, but it's not. The particle is at rest at t equals 3. So the particle is moving to the left on the open interval from 3 to 9.